Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host today on this special episode, another episode on the burglary arrest of Democrat Senator Nicole Mitchell. That's crazy. We broadcast live from Roseville, Minnesota in the liberal zombie apocalypse. Boy, did they really screw this one up. This is an interesting one. We got a 911 call. We've got the contradictions of her public statement, one public statement which has been recanted and then reissued, but no comments allowed. We got so much to talk about. Jesse is going to be joining me. Mega Jesse, how you doing there, buddy?
Doing good. Yeah, we got a lot to get into. The 911 call, the contradictions between what Nicole Mitchell is trying to put on Facebook versus what the police report actually shows. We'll be going through different things of that case and, also talking about different examples. Also, the TikTok ban I see in the comments here. We got Tucker91, JM Teddy, and Razzle Dazzle. So thank you guys for tuning in.
If you want to join us on Rumble, we'll be reading your comments live on air. If you want to interrupt us anytime, go ahead and hit that Rumble rant. Oh, we already got a Rumble rant.
And we got a Rumble rant. Here we go. Razzle Dazzle, $5 Rumble rant. Here to rumble and rant. So thank you.
Like that, Razzle Dazzle. Very good stuff. If you Rumble rant, you interrupt us anytime. Also, make sure you like and subscribe. We're also on YouTube and whatever. If you want to watch it there too. We couldn't do the show without our sponsors today. Alpine Cabinetry and East St. Cloud. Warren Wessel of Warren Wessel Realty. By the way, if you're buying or selling a home, go with someone that you can trust, and that's my buddy Warren Wessel. Not only does he think like us, he's a damn good real estate agent. So if you're buying or selling a home, give Warren a call at 612-419-7453. If you're buying a home, go give the good guys over at John Galt Mortgage Company your business. At least let them quote on your financing. John Galt Mortgage Company, people that don't shy away from their libertarian conservative beliefs. Check them out on social media. I'm going to tell you, you're not going to be disappointed. We've got to have Andrew or Tim on the show so you could get to meet these guys and learn more about them. All right, let's get right into it here. 911 call transcript came out last night. I almost said KSTP. KARE 11, I believe, is the one that brought this to our attention. So we learned a couple things from this, okay? Mind you, and you could go to truthhurts.com. Truthhurtsnews.com. You can find the transcript. I should have thought how I want to, the progression of the information. And then we're going to bring on my good friend Andy Parrish, who's going to be a PR expert for Nicole Mitchell and tell her what to say. But this is the 911 call. So just if you guys aren't tracking the story, which I think you got to be living under a rock at this point if you're not tracking this story. But Nicole Mitchell was arrested early morning hours this last Monday by Detroit Lakes cops. She's a senator in Woodbury, which is like 3.5 hours away, and charged with first-degree burglary, which would actually be punishable up to 20 years in prison. So we find out later that it's her stepmother who she went into the house of, and this is a 911 call, 4:45 a.m., and the Becker County says, Becker County 911, and the lady says, there's somebody has broken into my house, and they just ran down into my basement. What's your address? So basically, once the call is made, she scrambles and gets into the basement. By the way, how stupid is she? Why wouldn't she just left the house? Why did she go in the basement?
Right, doesn't make sense.
What's your address? And then I'm just going to skip over that part.
And it does say 4:45 in the morning right there at the top of that.
Correct, that's right. She goes, states party, so she's talking to the cops. 37 party states an individual broke into the house and ran down the basement. And then here's the stepmother again. I don't know if he's breaking out the back window or what. Did you go to look at him at all? No, it was completely dark. Remember that. It was completely dark. We're going to get back to that in a second. 05 Becker, and she's also talking to the cops at this point. And then here's the stepmother again. I tripped over him. He was on the floor next to my bed. He ran downstairs into my basement. All right, that's all I'm going to read from. You can go read the rest of this transcript. I'm not hiding any information. I just don't think it's relevant to the conversation here. All I want to say is, last I checked, Nicole Mitchell didn't identify as a man, so it was a mistaken identity, and we kind of had this discussion. Dawson, my God, I forgot to mention the guy running the dials here, Mr. Deep State himself. Dawson, how you doing there?
I'm doing okay. I'm keeping things afloat back here.
I apologize. By the way, what a great graphic you made for this show, because we're going to talk about this. Sinner or saint? I don't know. All right, so it's very important that you understand that it was very dark in there, and at some point, the stepmother believed it was like a man in the house. So obviously not welcomed in the house, right? And we also know that she broke in through the basement window. Okay. We read the police report. What we didn't read, and this is really fascinating for those people that watch our after show subscribers, we saw this live when we were on the after show. We literally dismissed it as fake news. We did not believe this to be true, but it turns out it is. Dawson, go to the next article, and then I'm going to bring Andy Parrish, a political PR expert, onto the show to discuss the next steps for Senator Nicole Mitchell. This is Nicole Mitchell's statements to the police versus her statement publicly. So we're going to go to show you the public statement. Scroll down here, Dawson. This is just a piece of work she's writing, and this is originally at Tuesday afternoon, so it was probably around 3 o'clock when we were finishing up our subscriber only. And she wrote, regarding the recent news, like so many families, mine is dealing with the pain of watching a loved one decline due to Alzheimer's and associated paranoia. Over the weekend, I learned of medical information which caused me grave concern and prompted me to check on that family member. Remember? Dark room. Lady thought it was a man and was going under the bed and then fled to the basement. This is a statement from Nicole Mitchell. The only statement, by the way.
Because usually when you're checking on your stepmother, you run out of the room and you dress in all black and you cover your flashlight with a black sock. You know, it's like, we were talking before the show, where did she get this black sock? Did she bring the black sock? Did she steal the black sock from the stepmom's bedroom? I mean, it's so ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. And, you know, so for her to be saying that, you know, I was going to check on her, I mean, give me a break. There couldn't be a more bold-faced lie.
Well, stop judging, you know. She due process there, Jesse. Due process. She continues, I entered a home I have come and gone from countless times in the past 20 years. You think it's through the basement window?
Yeah.
Where my son even once had his own room. Unfortunately, I startled this close relative, exasperating paranoia, and I was accused of stealing, which I absolutely deny. Thank you to all my friends and colleagues of both parties. That's interesting. For the kind words of support and for trusting my character even before I had a chance to respond. This has been a true tragedy for our family, and my hope is it can return to being a private matter. Well, what a saint. I mean, what kind of just a beautiful, wonderful person would wake up at 1 a.m. in the morning in Woodbury, drive all the way across the state of Minnesota and break into the home just to check on a loved one, although once the loved one was checked on, fled into the basement. By the way, thought she was a man. I guess Nicole Mitchell, that's her new angle, is she was transitioning during the whole period of time. Coming on our show is political expert. I don't have audio on my thing, by the way, Dawson. Expert used to be do I have the wrong one on? Is that it?
Maybe.
You said.
No, what is this guy? We had another client in the studio yesterday, so everything's.
I
this one works. All right, perfect.
Okay.
There we go. Because that would have sucked if.
Well, I asked you before the show if you could hear, and you said yeah.
I thought you were just talking about hearing you. My bad. My bad. Joining us is a political PR expert, Andy Parrish. How you doing, Andy? Oh no! Now we can't hear him. Is it muted on his side? Why can't we hear you? I'm sure you had something very important to say there, Andy.
Maybe it has to do with National Wine Day up there, which appears to be every single day of the year. Did you see that on Andy's screen there?
That's
Andy,
right.
It's not on our end. It's something going on.
Stop
for you.
muting the mic there, Andy. We know we want to hear your spin. How does she get out of this thing? And we'll update you on the story if you're not following it. Do we have you, Andy?
Andy, and
Nope. There we go. We can hear you now.
So I unplugged my mic. Look, if I'm her team, the best thing to do is say nothing, do nothing. There's nothing positive that you can say that won't come back to hurt you in the future. What I used to tell politicians is you can't unring a bell. Once that bell is rung, it dings and it echoes and it goes across the city. You know, I would have left it at this is a private family matter. I was visiting a family member with some dementia, and I'm concerned about them, and my thoughts and prayers are with them, and I'll do everything in my power I can to continue to help and love them, and then stop. But there's nothing good. You can't explain away what you guys were mentioning in any
Well,
way.
Andy, we didn't bring you on to what she should have done. We brought you on to what she has to do now. Okay,
She has
that's
to
what.
shut up.
Well,
That's
yeah, but
what she has to do. She has to
Wait.
actually.
She has to shut up. Now, by the way, just so you know, from the police report, and we don't need to read this here, Dawson, on air, or bring it up on the screen, but from the police report, she was Mirandized, and immediately following her Miranda warning, she says, quote, "I know I did something bad."
That's why you don't talk. This is why you keep your mouth quiet. And you don't say anything. You can't unring a bell, and anything you can say will be used against you. Now, if I'm the right, which if I'm Jake and I'm the only affected people in Minnesota after going after Democrats, what I would do is I would start like a Scooby-Doo looking cartoon, or hit them with mailers with Scooby-Doo with a black flashlight, and have Scooby's little buddy with him and the Scooby-Doo van, and say, where are they going to strike next? And I mean, I would have so much fun playing this off Scooby-Doo that it just wouldn't end. Every time people saw her, they would just simply see Scooby-Doo. In fact, I don't know if you remember when Skip Humphrey would not debate Norm Coleman in the gubernatorial elections, the GOP. It was actually Michael Broadcorp. This is when he and I were really young. Chased him around in a chicken suit. I mean, this is an opportunity not just to gain a Woodbury seat. This is an opportunity to gain any seat anywhere if you tie everyone to her. And so every day I would be beating the living tar out of every Democratic senator in the state of Minnesota with press releases, with radio, with tours. I mean, you can't let this go by. I mean, Scooby-Doo was just what came to my head. I'm sure there's more you could do, but Scooby-Doo, I think, especially if you're trying to target the all-important wine moms, which are between the ages of like 35 and 45 years old, they remember Scooby-Doo.
It seems like you got one in your house there.
I do, yes. I've got a very lovely Mrs. Parrish in the house here.
National Wine Day every day at Parrish House.
Point is, what is the GOP doing? Now, here's the disturbing part: is everything I read up on this. Like, where is the GOP?
Well, the GOP actually acted, and I think this is interesting. The Senate Republicans immediately had an ethics complaint. So, by the way, this happened on Monday morning.
Who cares? An ethics complaint? Who cares?
Just hold on. Just hold on, Andy. Just hold on. I'm going somewhere with this because I'm obviously no big Team Red cheerleader, right? I'm going to be very critical of Republicans. But they didn't have session Monday or Tuesday. So Wednesday, they come back into session. They had an ethics complaint filed right away. A bunch of senators joined it. Wiesenberg, who we had here in this on the show on Tuesday, was part of that. And when it came to the order of business, when they gavel in at noon, came to that order of business, they made a motion to expedite. Sorry, we got a rumble rant here.
Yep, $5 rumble rant from Tucker91. He says her statement makes it worse because now she shows that she's admitting to burglarizing a vulnerable senior.
I'm going to get to that. That's a great point,
exactly.
Tucker, because this is why I actually think she's a monster. But so they make a motion to expedite the process because otherwise the ethics complaint would be heard for 30 days. And Andy, there's 3 weeks left of legislative session. One senator, she's the deciding vote on all legislation, the whole radical left agenda. We're talking about constitutional amendments possibly on there, spending all the surplus money. They want to add transgender surgeries to all of our health insurance plans, raising our costs and making us have to forcing us to pay. So they make a motion to expedite that ethics complaint. Okay. Now I don't know what else they could have done that day. The fact that they did that already, I got to give them a little credit. I would have thought they wouldn't have done shit. Mm-hmm. So they kept it current, and I agree with you. It's got to be current. We got to keep getting this stuff in the news cycle. But I didn't bring you on the show, Andy. Oh, go ahead.
Man, I'm disagreeing with you, Jake, but I disagree with you. And
well,
I think that...
What could they have done? What do you think?
If here's an opportunity of a lifetime. I mean, I remember when it was a state representative who was trolling for like gay teenagers at a truck stop during the Kurt Bills campaign.
Oh, I remember that.
And, I was the one who finally caught him, and I had nothing to do with that. But I remember I had to tell my wife, honey, if there's this, there's more. And so I'm going to go on the Craigslist and troll the gay ads and see what I can find out. And lo and behold, I found some extremely graphic photos of this guy, and I sent him over to the city pages and others. And within an hour, he resigned. But politics is about winning, guys. It's not, and you know that, but it's not about like, oh, let's have an investigation. No, I'm sorry. As the political operative, I've convicted you, and you'll have your day in court. I believe in due process, but my mindset is I've already convicted you, and now I need to convict all of your friends along with you. This is a golden opportunity before an election. An ethics complaint.
It's not before an election. It's not before.
Who cares?
It's not the election here, Andy. It's because the Senate's not even up this fall. It's the fact that there's a 1-seat majority by Democrats. By the way, just so you guys understand,
it's always election year. The House is
well.
Up,
That's fair. That's fair.
It always is. And so the more you can tie these folks to her, the more uncomfortable it makes. One of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, which is a great book, by the way, is make your opponent as uncomfortable as possible. And that is so true. And if we can put the pressure on so hard that we start making other Democrats uncomfortable, their environment in the Capitol starts to become really bad for the senator. And not just does it become bad, but then there's pressure from inside now for her to do something. And then that's when you can force mistakes. Like I said,
I think that's happening. I think that is happening, though.
Yeah, well, where's the release? Where's the Scooby-Doo mailer? Where is you got to go full throttle on this stuff.
I agree.
Like this
I
very
agree.
often.
I agree. Listen, I agree with that. It's actually relatively early on in this thing, right? I mean, literally they just gavelled in yesterday for the first time. Mm-hmm. I don't want to whitewash it. I'm not saying they've done a ton here, but the fact they've at least done something, because I don't feel like the Senate under Gazelka would have done this, right? They're a bunch of cowards. They were afraid of their own shadow. Mm-hmm. There's at least something getting done, and this is just the first attempt. Now, Mitchell...
Right, and to understand, what exactly Lucero was doing with that push there, what he was trying to push for was that it would go to the Rules Committee so that they could start the due process. What the Democrats voted against there was saying that we don't want it to go to the Rules Committee immediately. Instead, we want this to have to wait 30 days. So they wanted to have to wait until after the session. That way they can continue to have their one-person majority. Exactly.
It's going to go away. I mean, their goal is to play this out as long as possible and have it go away. And our job has to be to make it not go away. Our job has to be, look, there's more. I mean, anyone that crawls into a basement 3 hours away with a Scooby-Doo sock on the end of their flashlight, there's more. This isn't just there's other things in this individual's life that now needs to be uncovered that maybe wasn't looked at as hard as it should have been, or could have been. And so this is not, Republicans, we have a tendency to just want to play nice. Like, we're going to take the moral high ground, and we're not going to get into a slugfest, and we're not going to go negative. Well, you know what? It's her actions. If they determine that they're negative, then that's her problem. We're just telling people what her actions are.
Well, isn't this? I very much empathize with you. And the graphic for this is on one side, it's like the two alternate personalities of Nicole Mitchell. One is the devil, and the other one is the saint or the angel, right? And I think she's going more on the side of evil because her statement says she was going to see someone suffering from Alzheimer's. So I think one of two things is true. I can't think of a third option, but one thing is she made that up. What kind of monster would make up a condition for a relative, especially guys
in the media? I mean, I saw.
Jake, here's another thing right off the top of my head. Hit her with a HIPAA complaint. I mean, there you go. I mean, it may not go anywhere, but God, pile that stuff on. Like, she doesn't have the right to talk about anybody else's health conditions publicly, unless she has their permission. So if she doesn't have permission, I mean, light her up with a HIPAA complaint. I mean, just start. This is what the Democrat. I mean,
and she's admitted to
give a PlayStation to Toys for Tots without people saying, "Oh, look at these tax cheats." I mean, it's not time to go nice.
And she's admitted to the bar, and I believe someone's already filed a complaint with the bar too. And then there's news stories on she's a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force National Guard, and it looks like that's going to come into play too. That's going to possibly hurt her military career.
But she says Alzheimer's.
Let me finish this point. The first point is she made up the Alzheimer's, but I think almost the second point's even worse. Someone suffering from Alzheimer's, she literally burglarizes. Like, what kind of monster does that with a vulnerable adult, someone with Alzheimer's?
Look, here's the other thing, and now you got me into full-on kill mode, which is where I love to be at. That's like my favorite spot. I have one mode. I tell people it's the jugular. Go for everything. If she's a lawyer, if she's an officer of the court, and she's an officer in the United States military, and she was Mirandized, and she gives a public statement like she did, saying that this individual has Alzheimer's. I'd make the argument, and I think I could make a strong argument later on, that she's perjured herself because it's an ongoing investigation. And as a public official, if she puts out a statement that is false about an investigation, perjury definitely comes into play here. So I would pile that one on. I hope people at the Republican Party are watching.
Oh, yeah.
This now. I'm giving away a lot of free advice on how to hammer this, but I would start with the perjury. I would have the bar open something up to find out if she truly lied. If anything, Jake, and you and Jesse learned this with all the complaints filed against you guys by Republicans and Democrats. It doesn't matter about the conviction. It matters about what was heard. It matters. The accusation matters more than what the actual outcome is. We're seeing that with Trump. Trump hasn't been convicted of a darn thing, but look at 98 indictments. I mean, they are so smart and so coordinated with their messaging that we need to do the same.
What were you saying,
but
Jesse?
we won't.
Right. No, and just as you were saying there, a lot of those things that you were saying were listed in the complaint filed by the Senate. And I'm also seeing a couple of comments I just wanted to get to here. Don2448 and Beth Moy tuning in here. I'm also seeing failed candidate coordinated and planned home invasion. Razzle Dazzle says, skip Minnesota nice, agree, it's politics. And, I think what's really interesting about this case here, she is saying the Alzheimer's thing. That's what she's putting out there. She's saying that her stepmom has Alzheimer's. And I saw one article from USA Today. There's all these other media sources that are throwing on the dementia card on top of it. So first of all, I don't know of anybody, maybe there's a couple of people with dementia who can live on their own, but not that many. And even with Alzheimer's, there's some that live alone, but not extremely common.
Jesse, look, my grandfather died from dementia, and he lived with my mom and dad. And, it turned into Alzheimer's as well. And there's no way he could have ever
I think it's the other way around.
Number one. Number two, if there ever was the need for a welfare check, or if you need something, you call the police and you say, I have a concern about an elderly relative of mine. She has dementia. Here's her name. You start listing out the different ways that she may react or respond, she or he, to the police officers, so they go in there safely. Again, you don't show up in the mystery van, and that's what this is. It's a big mystery. So you don't show up in the mystery van and Scooby-Doo your way in the house here to try to figure out what's going on. But here's the other thing. Who's on the ethics committee? Do we know? Do we have any pit bulls on the ethics committee that are just going to savage this senator? Or are they all kind of like, well, let's be nice, good government, let's compromise?
You looking it up there, Jesse? Yeah.
Big misunderstanding.
Let's get a report. Usually leadership is on that, I know, obviously. But yeah.
Well, there you go. Now you're screwed.
Well, that's true, because if it's milquetoast Republicans, you're right.
Yeah. Okay, so we got Chairman Bobby Joe Champion, so of course President of the Senate, and then the other members are Mary Kunesh, Andrew Matthews, and Jeremy Miller.
Oh,
good luck to y'all.
Yeah, good luck.
I mean, there's no one that's going to go after this woman on that committee. They're going to come out with a joint thing saying, please help us pray for the safety and well-being of this senator's mom.
Andrew Matthews might. He might push it. I mean,
Andrew Matthews is the one that killed the convention that they didn't even count a vote.
I'm aware of that, but he wants a Republican majority. He would obviously rather have Republicans.
I know, but these are the kind of guys that get to the 1 yard line and fumble the football.
Probably. I mean, I'm not saying Andrew Matthews is a good senator or anything. I'm just saying that he might have the motive to try to get it done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Andy, the big thing here is the Democrats have an agenda they want to get through. Politics really comes into play here.
Big time. And that's why you got to make her as uncomfortable as possible, Jake. Get to the point where the Democrats are saying we can't afford this distraction. Have Scooby-Doo following her around in the Capitol. Have Scooby-Doo in the gallery. Have a van parked out front. Have the mystery van parked out there. I mean, we did this with Target. We wrapped a van and we did the flush Target thing and we ran TV ads. You can do this kind of stuff. Put the pressure on and don't let up ever. In fact, when you think she's dead and she's going to resign, you keep hammering, and hammering. And you don't stop.
It should taint the next election. Let me go through the 4 contradictions between her public statement. Do we have a new? We got a new user there. I haven't seen.
Yeah, I'm seeing Bleeding Aluminum says, I agree with Andy. Paint all of the Dems as burglars. They all want to steal from you your money, your health, your freedoms. I'm also seeing Hate
There you
Minnesota.
go. Whoever just said that just came up with another one. Not only are they stealing your money, now they're breaking into your home and stealing things with a Scooby-Doo sock.
By the way, you can't make this up. She's actually on the bill, the safe storage bill.
Yep, that's
says
what Hate MN is saying here, too.
Yeah, you can't have a self-defense weapon in your home. In case, I don't know, you get burglarized.
Well, she can't get shot then. I mean.
Yeah, well, now we know. There's conflict of interest. She can't possibly vote on that now.
But, what's also interesting here, yesterday, Nicole Mitchell was listed as an excused absence from the Minnesota State Senate. I don't know how exactly she was excused from it. I'm not sure what her excuse was that Bobby Joe Champion was allowing. And then today, the Senate, again, was, they had a floor session. I was, sitting there listening, let's hear the roll call. Let's see what goes on here. Nicole Mitchell was not listed as someone who was voting remotely. She was listed as someone who was present. I'm not sure if she was actually at the Capitol there. And what was interesting, too, so if she was marked as present, she wasn't voting on things on the floor, so I'm not exactly sure how she was marked that way. And, so she wasn't listed as a remote voter either. All these other people were. It's confusing, and I come to find out, I called the Senate Information Office. I want to ask them, how are these excused absences? What is the actual requirements for this thing? What are the standards? And I find out it's all up to Bobby Joe Champion. Bobby Joe Champion, the president of the Minnesota Senate, gets to determine whether or not something is excused or unexcused. And then even if something is unexcused, there's no repercussions unless Bobby Joe Champion decides to do something about it. So it's all it's all corrupt. There's no requirements in writing or anything that says what determines something to be excused. So it just shows that the system is corrupt.
Well, it's up to the determination of the chair, and I'm old enough to remember when Senator Metzen was president of the Senate, and you had Republicans with very good excuses not being there, and yet they weren't excused, and nor should they be, frankly. I mean, if you're going to ask, and this remote voting, you guys can vote remotely in Minnesota. That's awful.
Yeah,
that's the worst thing ever.
Post-COVID.
I mean, but still, to be able to vote remotely, I mean, you need to be able to look your constituents in the eye. You need to be able to stand up and say, this is what I'm doing. And you need to be with everybody else as you cast that vote. Voting remotely just, I think, gives people an easy out to take bad votes and not have any repercussions for it. So I'm not a fan of that. But
the child transgender vote here in Minnesota, that was a day, it was on a Friday night. So, of course, a bunch of different senators and representatives, everybody was missing. And the majority of the state Senate was voting remotely, the Democrats and the Republicans. Less than half of the chamber was actually there.
That's awful. I mean, that is not a representative government. I mean, people should be able to go down to the Capitol and see their representative, right? They shouldn't be able to vote remotely, but the whole child transgender thing, Jesse, I'm not going to go off on that, but I am going to ask you a question. Like, how do we have a gender pay gap if we don't even know what the hell gender is?
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
Well, that's why you see these women identifying as men, because they want to get paid a full dollar. They don't want only 70 cents on the dollar, right?
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
But back to this. I mean, this is full blown opportunity for the GOP. How many vulnerable Democrats are in Minnesota, in the Minnesota Senate, Jake, that are actually in a winnable seat?
It's roughly 4 to a half dozen, somewhere in that.
Those are the guys you beat the living hell out of.
Oh, 100%.
Where are they? Why aren't they saying anything? Why aren't they calling on her to resign? Do they approve of her stealing? Do they approve of? I mean, you just start hammering.
Well, one of those Democrats is Kupik. What's Kupik's first name? Rob Kupik. And it was his constituent that had her home burglarized. I'd love to hear a statement from Rob Kupik.
Yeah, and I'm seeing
we got a rumble rant.
Wait a minute. She burglarized another Democrat constituent's home.
Oh, it was 3.5 hours away. Yeah, it's Rob Kupik's. I initially, when I saw this break, I was like, I think what happened is they had an affair because they were both meteorologists, both same freshman class. And then it became very obvious when we looked up property records that there was a mother or a sister, stepmother. I always want to say mother-in-law, stepmother on that street. So we assumed it was related to that, and that's what it came out to be. We got a rumble rant. Let's read it.
JL Jazz says, Mitchell admitted guilt at the scene of the crime. It's pretty cut and dry, in my opinion. I agree with you. I mean, Mitchell, the fact that she's an attorney, and like you guys have been saying in the comments, the fact that she didn't understand that she should have stayed silent in that moment because, she admitted the guilt herself. It's over for her.
That's a great point, Jen, and I can't wait to see it at her super secret meeting. Let me go through the four contradictions we found between the police report and her public statement. Number one, and this is
Perjury, Jake. Make sure you call it perjury.
Perjury. That's a great point. Truthhurtsnews.com. Okay, you can go check this out. Mitchell says she learned of medical information, that's a quote, of, quote, a loved one who is declining from Alzheimer's and associated paranoia, which, quote, prompted her to check on that family member. However, the police report states that she arrived at 4:45 a.m. Actually, it turns out it was a little bit sooner than that. Monday morning, was dressed in black, had a flashlight with a black sock over it, as you alluded to, and entered the basement window where a bag of items was used to prop it open. Who would conduct a welfare check on someone suffering from, quote, paranoia by entering through a basement window in the dark in the early morning hours? You made a great point. My aunt suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia, she just ended up in a home. It sucks because, Andy, you know my mom very well. To have your sister not know who you are, but even worse, she doesn't know her son and her daughter, my cousins. It really sucks. She has not lived on her own for many, many years. Like the idea, and she's young, and she's younger than this one.
Here's what their story's going to be, and here's what she's going to get away with. Of course, I broke into the home. I drove 3 hours. I was concerned. I rang the doorbell. She wouldn't answer it. I thought she was hurt. I thought she was dying. And who wouldn't do whatever it takes to save their loved one? I would. Wouldn't you, if that was your child? I mean, that's what they're going to do.
And I know that's what they're going to. Well, you said they should shut up. You said they should shut up because then again,
she should shut up. But her allies should go out and say, "Well, here's what I heard happened, and wouldn't you do the same for somebody that you loved?" And so you got to brand her right now as a perjurer, someone who can't be trusted, someone who broke into somebody's home, somebody who's crazy for doing that. And then tag it with Scooby-Doo and never let her leave that Scooby-Doo. Never let her live that down and push it on these folks. But that's what they're going to say. I mean, they're going to say, well, yeah, she didn't answer the door. Of course, she was concerned. Why'd she have a sock over a flashlight? Well, all she had in her car was this flashlight, and she didn't want to scare or alarm the mother with dementia.
Is this really what you do? That's why I brought you on the show. What give advice to the opposite side? Would they really compound this thing with more bullshit? Because eventually 100%. I think, really? I mean, at some point I assume, maybe I'm making a big assumption here, that Minnesotans, the average voter would be like, man, this is pretty bullshit here. This is pretty bullshit.
Yeah, but I think you're giving the voter too much credit, Jake. I mean, we've seen it with so many other politicians who've done incredibly stupid things, and yet somehow Minnesota tends to forgive them and move on. But, if I were her, I wouldn't say a word because I've been Mirandized. I've been arrested. Can't say a word. Potentially could perjure herself, given herself that she is an officer of the court in public statements. I would have my allies out there saying, you know what? She's a great daughter and a great mom. Who else would drive that far, that late at night, because they were scared for a loved one? When nobody answered the door and she assumed there was trouble, she absolutely did everything in her power to make sure her loved one was okay.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. You said great mom. I see we got a new comment here, Buzz G56. Nice to find your channel.
Mm-hmm.
Nice that you found us. Thank you very much for following us. So Andy, she's actually got foster children. So she's got children at home. She might even have a biological child, but she's got foster children. Who was watching these children? She left at 1 a.m. in the morning. Somebody else knows more of the story, you would imagine, right? I mean, I assume she didn't leave these children without a grown adult. That I assume that. I hope to God that she didn't. Because she was, by the way, gone for probably 36 hours. She spent 24 hours in the clink. But anyhow,
she married?
No, not that we could tell. There's some speculations up at the Capitol. I won't get into the rumors. Number two, in terms of contradictions, Mitchell claims her stepmother suffered from paranoia in the moment and accused her of stealing, which she has absolutely denied. In the police report, Mitchell provided a statement. Oops, that was a typo on my part. I know I did something bad, end quote, after receiving a Miranda warning. The bag contained laptops, which Mitchell said belonged to her, but when it was turned on, the stepmother's name popped up. Also, who breaks into a residence with their own laptop?
Mm-hmm.
Andy, you being a guy that's been into politics for a while, aren't you kind of curious what the hell's on that laptop?
Whose laptop was it? Hers or somebody else's?
Clearly the stepmother's laptop. Her name came up.
So she was taking a laptop. Yeah, that's. I mean, I would want to see what's on there. You know, and again, I would ask for the laptop. Can she produce it?
Oh, I would imagine the cops have the laptop
Yeah.
at this point. It was evidence. She had a whole bag of stuff, and they clearly know that the laptop didn't belong to her because her profile didn't show up. It was the stepmother.
Okay, so I mean, if they have the laptop, somebody has it, and I think the contents of it'll come out. I mean, the reality is she wanted something. Here's you know my take. I didn't know she took a laptop. My take is that there's some type of personal photographs of the personal nature probably on that laptop.
Mhm.
If you're taking a laptop, that to me is you don't
Fishy.
do that in a welfare check, right?
Right. Well, yeah. So that once again, it goes against her narrative. Do we have more, Dustin?
No.
No, we don't. Okay. So let me go through the third one here. What did I do with my
Dawson, can you
page?
turn Jake up just a bit for me? I can barely hear him.
Nope.
Uh-oh, it's your fault.
I'm
What-
good then.
What kind of earphones do you have there, Andy? You might need better ones. Maybe your hearing's
I'll get
going
better
like mine.
ones.
All right, number 3. Mitchell's claim that she was conducting a welfare check and wasn't stealing anything is in contrast to what police observed once they arrived at the residence. Police found her in the basement, and as we know from the 911 call, she fled to the basement once the stepmother made the call, arrested her, and while being detained, she said, quote, "I was just trying to get my dad's things because you wouldn't talk to me anymore." And she's obviously trying to talk to the stepmother at this point. So I was just trying to get my
But
dad's
it's
things.
not a welfare check.
That's not a welfare check. Of course it's not a welfare check. It's in the dark. She's wearing black. She's got a sock over the flashlight. And she openly admits she's just trying to get things, you know.
Hit that Scooby-Doo. Jake hit that Scooby-Doo thing hard. I mean,
Yeah. Number 4,
It's-
last one that we noticed also regarding Mitchell's statement that she didn't steal anything. Mitchell's stepmother stated to police, and this is the end of the police report, that quote, she did not give a laptop to Mitchell. Now that's a he said, she said, you know, he being Nicole Mitchell, who was misgendered. You know, that's actually that's the crime that happened here.
police aren't going to question an elderly person with dementia.
Yeah, but well, we alleged dementia, right? That's the crime that's been committed. That's
Wait,
the
what-
spin.
what did-
Here's
what
the
did she
spin.
say it
This
was,
is
Jake?
this is the crime.
Alzheimer's.
Nicole was misgendered. That's the crime here, right?
She was what?
She was misgendered.
Cisgender?
No, she was misgendered. She was called a man, but
misgender.
she doesn't identify
whatever.
as a man.
But back to this quick. Police aren't going to interview a person with Alzheimer's because somebody with Alzheimer's is treated like a minor, essentially, where they need somebody with power of attorney to be there with them to answer those questions. So, you know, I would be driving that home too. Like, do you really think that the police are going to question somebody with Alzheimer's without somebody there who has power of attorney over this individual? That's not going to happen.
Mhm.
So there you go. I mean, did the police confirm she has Alzheimer's? Probably not.
No, the only place we've heard that at this point, and I'm sure there's some journalists getting to the bottom of this story, but it's from that public statement. And by the way, that Facebook post was taken down, then re-put up, copied and pasted, and without comments. And I'm pretty sure there's another way to hit up Nicole Mitchell. I don't think elected officials on social media can stop the public from commenting. It's equated to silencing speech.
Well, I mean that Chris Linky guy or whatever ended up blocking me, but
Welcome to the
you know,
to the team.
yeah, I know, but let me again, when police arrest people and charges are charged, they don't charge people unless they know that they can make a conviction, or they don't arrest people unless there's enough. And wherever this Alzheimer thing came from, I honestly, boy, as a guy who was almost a lawyer, and maybe I will be someday, boy, I would, as her defense, I would have anything that an Alzheimer's patient said thrown out unless there was somebody there who had power of attorney who was able to confirm it. So, you know, that's that in itself.
It's-
Where's the prosecutor at on this? What has the prosecutor said up there in this?
Prosecutor has charged her formally now with first-degree burglars omnibus hearing.
Yeah.
In
So
June.
I mean, so that means they're going to use the testimony of the homeowner, which means she does not have Alzheimer's. Because honest to God, if you put somebody with Alzheimer's on the stand, they're and I know this firsthand through my grandfather.
Well, yeah, it's because Biden can't stand. Right, that was the whole thing. He jury would never convict him because he didn't remember about the documents.
We can talk about classified stuff later. We can talk about, Jake, I don't know if you remember when the FBI took like 44,000 emails that I had written or received during an investigation, which I was fully cleared of. But you think, man, had there been anything in there from national security or from like my federal job, I'd have been screwed. But they're not, there's no prosecutor in the world that's going to put their star witness being an Alzheimer's patient on the stand. This is going to get pled out. If I were her, I would plead this down to a minor misdemeanor of some type and chalk it up to a misunderstanding. Meanwhile, the GOP will do nothing and she'll get reelected and they'll hold on to their majority because they're missing a golden opportunity to beat the living hell out of 4 vulnerable Democrats.
I don't see it this way because
it.
I actually don't think that her testimony is that imperative. I think the evidence, from what we can tell, and we have very limited stuff, we got a police report and a 911 call, but it seems pretty damn obvious she entered that home not welcomed.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, that's burglary.
Let's take that
That's
aside.
burglary.
Alzheimer's or not, when you enter in through a window, you're not welcome.
Right, that's
You
burglary.
enter through a front door, and
That's burglary. No, we read first-degree burglary.
This sock thing. The other thing that came to my mind, because again, I'm going for the jugular. Man, bring up O.J. Simpson. Like, have a dropped. You know, you can't do the bloody glove.
Does the
but,
sock
you know
fit
what
the
I would do?
flashlight?
If I
It
was the
doesn't
GOP,
fit.
I'd go out and buy flashlights, put black socks on them, and put them on everybody's desk in the chamber. That's what I would do.
That's a damn good idea. That's a really good idea.
That's what I would do.
I'm gonna give that idea to Wiesenberg. We'll see.
But
wait till you see that.
But Jake, this is what frustrated me about my own party, and there's very few operatives in Minnesota that get this. That time is your scarcest resource. The longer this goes on, the more watered down it can become, the more normal it can become, and the faster we can restore what we call normal. So somebody's got to get on this and start thinking creatively, like I was, bird dogging this woman in a Scooby-Doo outfit, and having black flashlights, handing those out. Go down to the media down in the Capitol. Go through their offices, give them all flashlights with black socks on them. I mean,
Yeah, in solidarity.
You can't trust the chairman, the president of the Senate, who's a Democrat,
Yep.
to run a fair ethics committee hearing.
Well, and the committee won't even meet.
Two, I don't trust the Republicans that are there to do anything.
Oh, here we go. I think they're, I'm not sure if you guys have been made aware of this. I'm looking at a NPR article from about a half hour ago, Dana Ferguson, titled Minnesota Senator Mitchell insists she won't resign as demands for answers about arrest row.
Let's go ahead. Let's break through the story here.
Dawson, go ahead and look up NPR Senator Mitchell because it should pop up right away. Because it's saying here that she will not resign, and that is definitely an
that's
update
what the
here.
Representative up in Duluth said until I found those pretty graphic photos of him on Craigslist and other areas, and then they resign real fast. But there's something there. If she says she won't resign, you know what that means? She's saying, "All right, I'm ready for your fight." But she knows they're not going to fight well. They're not going to fight like I would, but. Hammer that. Now she's got foster children, and here's what's tragic to me about this, and any Democrat that says that the Republicans or the conservatives that we hate children, boy, let me tell you, you couldn't be more wrong, because the foster care system for children is probably that is a jail sentence for most of them till they're 18 years old, and then they're on their own. These are children who, through no fault of their own, none whatsoever, have been taken out of their family, have been separated from siblings, have been separated from aunts, uncles, grandparents. And then they get put in a situation like this where they have grown adults breaking into people's homes with a flashlight. Shame on her. Shame on her.
Mitchell, so Senate Majority Leader Aaron Murphy has said Mitchell's ability to vote would be decided day by day. Mitchell hasn't been seen since her release from custody in Detroit Lakes, where she was arrested Monday and later charged with burglary and an alleged home break-in. Well, boy, alleged home break-in nowadays.
Why did Bobby Joe Champion not mark her as an absence? Why was it not excused? Whether it be excused or unexcused, it doesn't make any sense.
She has disputed criminal activity and
So
suggested. Hold on.
Jesse, the difference between excused, unexcused. If it's unexcused and you miss a vote, you can get dinged for missing votes and saying that you missed 70% of your votes. If it's excused, you really can't get dinged for it.
That's not to my understanding, because I talked to the Senate Information Office and they said that there were no repercussions for a certain number of unexcused absences. And I asked what the difference was between an excused and unexcused absence, and he had no clear answer for me. So it tells me that it's all up to Bobby Joe Champion.
Yeah, but I'm talking about campaign wise. I mean, my former boss, my former boss in 2010 missed 70 votes, and Terrell Clark was trying to hammer her on that. The reality was my former boss was literally on her mother and her stepmother's deathbed with her, and the Democrats held 70 votes in one day.
So your former boss,
I mean,
but your former boss was on her stepmother's deathbed. She wasn't under her stepmother's bed looking for more items to steal?
Nope, didn't break in.
Right.
None of that. Just was there with her as she went home to heaven, and missed 70 votes because of that, because they held 70 votes in one day, and they were going to hammer us on that. And I just remember saying, you go ahead and do that, but here's where she was, and then it ended. But excused, unexcused. I mean, the Minnesota public is fairly forgiving if you have a valid reason for missing a vote, whether it be somebody dying or a funeral or whatever. So you have to have those excuses. Now, usually the reason why you're absent and excused is written down in the journal so that anyone in the public can go look and see.
I don't think that is. I don't think that's true. I haven't seen that. Maybe that was a practice over a decade ago.
At the federal level, everything was entered into the congressional.
Right. I'm talking about nowadays in the Minnesota Senate. I don't think.
Yeah, no. I mean, it doesn't give any kind of description or reason. It just would say so and so's excused.
I'm going to continue on. She has disputed.
But isn't that a problem in itself that Minnesota needs to fix? Then, if you're going to miss votes, don't
perhaps.
you think the voters deserve to know why?
Yeah. Well, we found out Housley didn't vote on the transgender bill because she was at some conference in Detroit, like some legislative conference. She's probably already had a couple margaritas. I'm going to continue on with this NPR story. She has disputed criminal activity and suggested a family dispute was at the root of the incident. And this is just NPR believing everything the fuck these guys say. The new statement issued Thursday said that while she cannot elaborate more at the advice of counsel, that's what you're saying, Andy, I could say I'm extremely disappointed that the complaint lacks the complete information of the incident, including important context, including that I have known the other person involved in this incident since I was 4 and cared deeply about her. She said she is saddened people have used her tragic family situation to score political points. Oh, this poor woman, the victim here, guys. We have to understand she is the victim. That's what they want us to believe. And I'm not going to go on, but it
scroll
seems
down
like
a little bit, Dawson, to get to where he's at. It also says the Tim Walz decided to stay silent. Big surprise there.
Okay, so that's another wrinkle I want to get to. And I'm just looking at the NPR story. It looks like they're kind of showing a little bit of the contradiction. They're kind of going through the 911 call. So, but obviously they're not going to do the due diligence of actually exposing this lie. Here's the interesting, Dawson, let's go to F10. This is Nathan Hansen brought this tweet up, and this is a very good point. I like this one. Okay.
Laser Jim was just hinting at it too here.
What's that?
The tweet you're about to get to here.
So here we go. Remember when Governor Tim Walz, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, who's Indian in case you didn't know that, and Ken Martin and other top Minnesota Democrats called for Representative John Thompson's resignation when he was accused of a misdemeanor, a black man. Now Senator Nicole Mitchell from Woodbury, a white woman, faces a felony charge, and there is hit share more. And there is silence. Why the double standard? Isn't that a great point?
So it's incredibly hard to one of the difficult challenges that we face in politics is it's incredibly hard for any white male to attack a woman. The public just does not like the idea of a big white male beating down on this poor foster woman mom. That's why Scooby-Doo is so important. Have Scooby-Doo do the attacking and do it in a humorous way. You know, you're not going to get Ken Martin. You're not going to get Governor Walz and all those folks to say resign unless they feel a threat to themselves or their agenda. Woodbury should be a pretty safe seat, I think, for the Dems. I don't know. I mean, it's changed over the years. You know, for her to resign, to get rid of her and to have a chance. Like, I'm all about having a chance to take the majority, but you can't have a chance unless you take some swings. And you need to start swinging right now. Yeah, the Dems will probably hold the seat. At least she'll be gone. At least we'll have proved that, you know, we're coming for you. We're coming for the majority. But more importantly, I think you have a chance now. You can put a Republican up. It's a special election where turnout is low. Put your turnout machine on. Let the chips fall where they may, but you don't even have a chance if you don't get her out. So you got to start making this a threat to other people's reelection.
Yep, I think that's a good point.
Oh, wait, hold on. There is a quote from Walz in this NPR story. It says, quote, "I think it's deeply concerning in this and reminding folks that it's a family tragedy. But there was an individual involved. There was an individual involved in this that had her home violated." Walz said, quote, "We'll see how all this information comes out." So at least Tim Walz said that this home was violated.
Interesting.
A rare Walz W. What the?
But again, they're already driving home the fact that this is a tragic
family tragedy. Yep.
Yeah, but
incident
once again,
with somebody, and the next thing they're going to say, and I'm just telling you, it's going to be today or tomorrow. What wouldn't you do to save your mother's life?
No. You know what that statement says to me? What they do is they realize she's guilty of sin, and they're saying the statement that can survive them for the next 3 weeks, because really that's what they care about. They need those
All they're trying to do is draw this out for 3 weeks.
Exactly, and that's what that statement is. Is for the next 3 weeks, we're going to just let you know that we're not saying she's innocent, but this is a family tragedy, and we need to let the process go on. Aaron Murphy goes, we need to do the people's business.
We don't. When you're a public official, we don't. When you are held to a higher standard, our founding fathers insisted that our representatives were held to a higher standard and they were close to the people. And you are held to a higher standard when you are a public official, just as a teacher is, just as a police officer is, just as anybody else is in your field. You are held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
So the GOP, you know what, if I were the GOP, do they have to have quorum? Can they do quorum without the GOP? I'd say
it's a majority.
Yeah, okay. Oh, so it's simple majority, so they're fine, unless she would have to show up and vote.
Yeah, she would, actually. That's a great point.
But the point being is that I would sit there and I would stall, and I would make this so uncomfortable for her colleagues that her colleagues are done defending her and that she's left on her own.
Yeah, and Andy,
That's a scary place to be.
I agree with you on that, but guess what? The Republicans decided to piss away that opportunity because Mark Johnson decided to vote with the Democrats today to continue to allow a housing bill to be tabled. Every other Republican voted against it. Every other Republican was voting against the Democrats. Mark Johnson, I was sitting there watching the votes come in, and I'm thinking, what's going on? Why is Mark Johnson not voting? I just heard his voice on the floor. Okay, well, then all of a sudden it comes in the last second. There's Mark Johnson voting with the Democrats. He would have flipped the vote. It would have been 34-33 in the other situation. So Mark Johnson, or 33-32 in that situation.
I don't understand. Why were the Republicans against tabling a bill?
I don't understand it either. You know, I don't know the full situation of it.
We got to get to the bottom of that story. That's
but the fact that Mark Johnson was voting with all of these Democrats to allow them to get their wishes on this agenda.
Yeah, because they need a majority. See, this is the problem.
I'm thinking, I'm just spitballing here, but I'm thinking instead of, the reason that the Republicans probably said, no, let's not table this, they probably said, let's take a vote on it right now. This is a Democrat bill. This is a big government bad bill. Let's take a vote on it right now to shut it down. That's what I'm thinking the Republicans were considering, but their leader, Mark Johnson, shut down that opportunity.
Well,
big time.
okay, this is what my read, and this is all I got, is what you just told me, is that this bill was not going to pass, right? Because Mitchell's not participating in the legislative process.
Right, so they tabled it.
So, yes, right now the Senate, either side can't pass anything, right? They're getting 33 versus 33. And
Right.
so Mark Johnson just allowed this bill to come up at a different day. So
Yeah.
in other words, what fucking backroom deals did he make with
Right,
the Democrats
exactly. And
majority?
that's the thing. They decided to adjourn until Monday, 11 a.m. So we're not going to be seeing anything from them tomorrow. Not going to see anything from them for the rest of the day, except for committee hearings. So it just shows that it shows their game plan here.
K. Wall for Life says, I know my work would fire me if I did something like that.
Right,
Which is very
but
true.
Mark Johnson, he totally let us down. People need to know that.
I think he was actually referring to Nicole Mitchell, but maybe the same thing would apply to Mark Johnson. Mark
Right.
Johnson, the minority leader, Republican lead in the Senate. I had another place I was going to go with this thing. I wanted to end this on an hour, and you had some.
Hey, no, we got the world premiere coming up, Jake.
Do we want this for the subscribers only, and then we'll do it to everyone else
Well,
beforehand?
I don't know. Let's look at the chat. So I'm a very talented individual, and I decided to get into the music industry.
Hold on, Dustin. Are you able to show this?
Am I able to?
Nothing to show. He's got to play it as an MP3.
Yeah, but can you do that?
I have it set up so that we can. It was a little weird when I downloaded it and I put it on and then I ran it once for myself and it came up with a warning that was basically saying distasteful, but I figure that we could still run it and that's no problem.
This space full. I didn't do it. So anyway, so this is Daphne. Daphne, I found her on the street, and as a talented music makey guy that I am,
Music
I
producer.
decided to write a song.
You're a music producer now.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I
there you
decided to write a song and have Daphne sing it. Now, she'll be up on iTunes later today or tomorrow. Hope if you're one of Jake's Rumbler peopler, every time I produce a magic song, then Jake will give that to the OT people. But we got to give him a little taste of Daphne before we go, don't we?
This is the artist you've discovered, Daphne. You're the
Daphne,
songwriter.
I discovered her on my own. She was on the street.
And you're the songwriter. By the way, does Daphne have Alzheimer's? I just want to make sure.
Nope.
Okay.
Daphne does not have Alzheimer's. Yep, I wrote the song, and then I is the music producer guy.
All right, this is the first anyone has heard publicly.
World
the
premiere for Daphne. I hope
newest
everyone's
artist,
listening.
Daphne. Let's go ahead and play this.
So this is actually
We'll take your money, we'll make college and abortions free. We'll ban all guns and make the rich pay the fee. We'll eat organic, vegan cheese and be gluten free. We're changing the world for me, just wait and see. We are the liberals, we are the world. We're here to make a change, a better place for me. We'll take your money, we'll make college and abortions free. And if you don't agree, we'll
Oh,
make
no
you
comments or
see.
rumble rants. Wow.
We'll call you
We got one.
Telling, isn't it?
and force you to comply. We'll make the world a better place, even if we have to try. With granola and me, trust me. We'll make
need
men
sunglasses or
wear
something.
makeup and force them to sit when they pee. We'll make them all make up their purses and they've had their fun, changing the world for me until we're done. We are the liberals, we are the world. We're here to make a change, a better place for me. We'll take your money, we'll make college and abortions free. And if you don't agree, we'll make you see.
Wait till she really turns it up here.
We'll call you names and force you to comply. We'll make the world a better place, even if we have to try. With granola and me, trust me. We'll make men wear makeup and force them to sit when they pee.
Yeah, Daphne's got this.
It sounds like you've already put Daphne in.
Oh, Daphne is on. That is fire. If I was one of my kids, I would
Oh,
say.
Tucker says not enough cowbell for my taste. Definitely needs more cowbell. It sounds like you've already put in Daphne in quite a large size audience there. You put it in
That
front.
was part of the music production gizmo stuff. But no, I mean, look, I think using song and comedy at the same time to prove a point is pretty good, and I think Daphne's good. We've got some other people. We've got Kyle. We've got all sorts of. We've got Don.
You gotta stop touching your mute
Andy,
button,
your
dude.
brand new mic, your nice new mic you bought. When you touch that, you actually turn it off. You
it
don't
mutes
realize
it,
that.
But like I was saying, I've got Kyle,
Music
I've got
producer,
Dante,
by the
I've
way.
got all sorts of different people that are singing many
Dante.
different songs. We're going to produce an album. It's going to be great.
Oh my God! All right, well let's get into
There's
how.
a- there-
Did you like
there- Oh yeah, I liked it. There's a couple of good lines in there. A better place for me, the granola and weed. Those are my
Always
favorite
me.
there.
It's never you and me. when
Yeah,
it's liberals,
that's
it's me.
right. I misheard it the first time before we played it on air, and I didn't realize it was just me. That's pretty good.
Just me, baby. I'm going to make the world a better place for me.
Yup.
We'll get into more about Daphne in the after show. If you're not a subscriber, go hit join on Rumble right on our channel. You can join for $8 a month. You can be part of our after show. Andy will talk more about his wonderful talent that he has found. Hey, that is fake news there, Razzle Dazzle. That is definitely not AI generated. What are you talking about? Fake news. Total fake news. All right, we've got to thank our sponsors today, Alpine Cabinetry in East St. Cloud. Good conservative business owner. Great cabinetry. Warren Wessel, another good conservative. Give Warren a call if you're buying or selling a home at 612-419-7453. If you're buying a home, give our good friends at John Galt Mortgage Company a chance at financing your new home. Go to johngaltmortgage.com. Check them out on the World Wide Web and on social media. They're damn good libertarian type people. They're not hiding their viewpoints, and that's what we need more businesses doing, except for Budweiser, because they screwed up when they do it. Thank you very much for running the dials, Dawson. Mega Jess, anything before we sign out and go to the...
Nope, just lots of love for the song in the comments here.
There we go. Awesome stuff. Thank you guys for the Rumble rants. Thank you for the comments, and we'll be back here on Tuesday. And for those that are coming to the super secret meeting, I can't wait to see you guys there.